There are millions of entrepreneurs and solo business operators in Africa. And what Antonia Lorenz is trying to do is to combine this manufacturing power and capacity in Africa and connect them with the rest of the developed world. She's focusing specifically on fashion and ethical fashion at that. So these people that are trying to produce ethical fashion, she's going to connect them with these manufacturers in Africa in a decentralized way using Cardano as well. Now, if you're enjoying this type of content, please make sure you work that YouTube algorithm, give us that thumbs up, click subscribe, and hit the notification bell and hear more from us soon. All right, let's get into this interview.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast.
So let's start off with your 30-second elevator pitch. Can you tell me and the audience all about Waya Collective, what it's all about?
Sure. So Waya Collective is basically a platform where we connect international fashion labels to the African fashion industry. The African fashion industry is, however, not very structured, and you can't get in there so easily because it really consists of millions of small and micro enterprises, which might be, a small tailor shop on the side of the road, and there are millions of these. And we're basically building a decentralized production system on the Cardano blockchain to make it transparent and scalable, to raise the standards of these small businesses and connect them to the international market. So what we can basically do is we have a training program and a certificate program, and they follow the same rules so that we can also get bigger orders and split them to multiple collectives so that we can have a really flexible and modular system.
Got it in a nutshell. A little bit longer than 30 seconds, but yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. I had no idea that there were so many, I guess, independent manufacturers there. I guess there's like solo business people or whatnot, maybe working in families or something collectively. So how are you going to connect all of these people and group them together to be able to fulfill orders for international fashion houses?
It's quite a task. So you can imagine these small businesses. That's really how a lot of African economies are actually built. So most of them are informal. They didn't find a formal job. So they had to kind of, start something of their own. And for example, I'm now in Uganda, which is has been ranked like the most entrepreneurial country in the world, which doesn't mean that there's a lot of huge businesses, but there's actually millions of small businesses, and the problem with them is that they don't have a big market. Like they mainly target their neighborhood, Facebook, WhatsApp, whoever they can find. And some of them have really good skills, like there's a lot of skills programs, but a lot of them also don't. So yeah, our idea is really to raise their standards, have built the training program, and there's actually a lot of training programs already here, which we can work with. And really build the supply chain. There's, at the beginning, I thought, it's only these tailors really that will be on the supply chain, but now we've realized that it's really a lot of different actors, and what we're doing right now is really trying to map out these actors and these interactions and look, how do we actually need to build these interactions so that nobody can exploit the system in a way. So you have, for example, the producers, which we call collectives, and these are, for example, a tailor shop, but then you also have like a printing shop. So people who print on t-shirts, that's also a task that can be taken up. Or for example, you have people who are resellers of materials. So materials is like another big task, which we really want to decentralize because we want to have a really flexible system. We don't want to buy huge piles of fabric because that's what you can do, but we can actually use these existing resellers who already buy all of this material and then try to sell it. But they can be part of the network and therefore have a much bigger market and also more security. So, for example, we can then, have stable prices. So it's a lot of like the trader mentality here. So people kind of, they buy something, they try to sell it. It's not really organized, and we're really also helping them be really organized. And I think it's a really big task we're trying to do, because we're basically trying to formalize and bring and organize really all of these millions of actors, which can also be then the people who transport stuff. Like there's so many roles that can be taken up, and we're really trying to organize them and actually just bring them on this network on the blockchain, so that all of these transactions are transparent, that there's not so much corruption taking place, that also them have more of an overview. How much money do have I actually made? Because they often have no idea about that. So it's also a big benefit for them. And so the idea is really that all of these things exist on the ground. They're just peer-to-peer. They're just not organized. We're trying to do that. So what I'm doing right now mainly is really being on the ground and trying to figure out these structures. And what our CTO then does is he takes all of this information from me, and we think, okay, how do these actors really interact? What systems can we build? What like roles and rules can we build, so that we actually build institutions and an incorruptible system that can then really work actually efficiently, decentralized, and not like it is now.
No, it sounds like a logistical nightmare to work with all these different businesses and different parts of the system to actually make it all work together, especially when all of these people are probably not used to working collectively to form a part of a longer and bigger supply chain. I was talking to another person on another interview that was talking about their supply chain processes. And even in Western or developed countries, it's still a mess with handwritten paper notes from delivery trucks, passing it over to a delivery depot and saying, yeah, this is what I got. And it's just all on paper, and no one really has a clue. So you're solving a couple of things. You're looking at the logistics and the formalization of the entire supply chain. You're making it on the blockchain so that it is visible and people can track and see what they're doing. And I guess that's also forms a part for the people that are buying from this supply chain. They get to see what's happening as well. Is that correct?
Exactly. So we're mainly targeting fashion labels who are looking for a different way or an alternative way of production. So they really want to produce ethically, so fair and also sustainable. Especially the fairness is extremely hard to track. And this whole production system right now, or how you can produce fashion right now, it's either very intransparent and really kind of hard to get into, especially as a small label, which is our entry market, or it's really expensive. Like the only alternative you have to Asia is really maybe Europe, or like if you're in the States, this local market, but it's quite expensive because just the living conditions are quite expensive. And we're really trying to build Africa to become the ideal place to produce fair and sustainable fashion using blockchain. So that's really the idea, because we see there's so little in export being done now, and there's many of these very exploitative structures which exist in Asia, in China and Bangladesh. They don't exist here, and we can can really use that, but while we scale it, we don't want to build the same structures. So that's why, especially blockchain is really doing a lot for us, and that's why we think that we're also solving a huge problem for these producers, and especially small labels. And we really think that a lot of people who want to, produce ethical fashion and who now can't find something on the market which really ticks all of their boxes in terms of style and also fairness and sustainability. And we think that these labels are growing, and we want to serve them.
That's fantastic. I do see a lot more of these labels trying and aiming for that ethical part of their manufacturing and what they're offering to their customers. It's a really good and a different edge, and I applaud you for trying to push that side of the market as well. But how did you start all this? Did you just wake up one day and say, "Hey, there's a problem here, and I think I can solve it. I'll go to Africa and work it out"? Or have you been living in Africa for a while and Uganda for a while?
Yes, I've been living here I've been around here for like 2.5, 3 years. So the first time I was here was like on a student trip, actually, and it was like an entrepreneurship startup tour. That's what we call it. And we really visited a lot of startups, and I got a really good insight into the problems. And I basically then said, you know what, let me just go to Africa. And I decided to move to Uganda for a while. So that was like about 6 months. And I didn't have much planned, but I was like, I want to start a business. And that was back in 2019, just before COVID hit, which also made my trip a bit shorter. It was supposed to be around 10 months, but I learned a lot. I started different projects, which also didn't work out, some of them. And I really learned a lot. And throughout this whole journey, fashion was always a thing that I felt like it was all around me when I was in East Africa. Like, people are very creative. I first, worked with some of these tailors because I was like, I was just excited. I just bought some materials and went to them and just made some stuff for myself because I was like, that's cool. I like fashion, and I can just produce. And it seemed so easy to just go there and they can make it. And they also have, some skills of the technical things and the pattern making. Of course, the standards are not like an international standard in a way. So the stuff is really lacks in quality a little bit. But I was really amazed, and I had a lot of fun with that. And then so that was really the first thing I noticed. Just when I was living here. And the other thing was really this huge problem of job creation, really. I mean, you have these tiny businesses everywhere, and everyone's just trying to survive. And I really, my personal view on Africa is that I think there's so much potential. I feel like a lot of people maybe go here because they think, you need to help these people, but really I think there's so much potential. And I was like, how can we best use this potential with the stuff that is already on ground? So that's really my whole idea, how to tackle these problems. And then this idea really grew in my mind. I started with fashion because I think it's quite an easy entry market. There is this market on the other side who actually has problems producing fair and sustainable fashion. So it was a good match. But also in the future, I want to produce not only fashion, but I think that if we've cracked the supply chain thing, it would be very stupid not just to use it for one industry, but to also produce many different products and really industrialize African countries without destroying them and without without building these same exploitative structures.
Great. Okay, so really you're building the supply chain infrastructure for industries in Africa. Cool. Okay, not a small task. It's
exactly, yeah.
So how are you going to go about doing this? It's I know you're on the ground there, talking to manufacturers, fabric suppliers, printers, etc., and connecting with them at the moment. What about the other side as well, and the retailers, the fashion labels and stuff? Are you talking to them, and how are you going to connect all the pieces together?
So we actually have a couple of clients now, and we go through this process of producing stuff for them and actually putting their ideas into reality at the moment, which is a really big learning process. So that's really we learn a lot on the go currently. But at the same time, we're also building a product for them because, and we call our concept to the market, we call it ethical fashion as a service, because we not only want to produce fashion, but we also want to, support them with the product development, of course, the supply chain, the fabric sourcing, the logistics, and we say that we deliver the transparency and the fairness at the same time. So that's why we call it ethical fashion as a service. And we're really building a platform right now, which is going to launch at the end of August, where we have like a basic line of products, which our producers are trained to do. And on the other side, we have a network and a database of fabrics and materials that we can source from. So we're currently building a lot of relationships with the textile producers. We now know, okay, in African countries, we now know this is the fabrics they produce. We have pictures of them. So we're really kind of building this platform or this service for labels to make it really easy to source. They can just scroll through all of the materials and produce fashion. So we also have building this tool where they can input kind of what they want to produce. So how many pieces, if they already have the technical development done, if they want us to do it. And based on that, we're building the system, which we can then channel to our producers and our designers and technical designers, so that they are actually having a really easy time to put their ideas into reality.
Sounds like you've done a lot of work. How long has this project been going for now?
Around 8 months, I think. So we started at the end of 2021. Yeah. The idea has been there for much longer, but the end of 2020.
It sounds like you have been working hard connecting all the pieces together and making this happen. What's the experience going to be like? Are you building like a visual platform for the fashion labels to actually have a look at these samples? Because we're working globally here, and I'm guessing sending samples around the world is a little hard. So I'm assuming you're going to be building a little platform, or a fairly large platform, I should say, where the fashion houses or labels will be able to log in, have a look at. Like, what's that side of things going to be like?
Yeah, so we will have these two products basically. The one is these pieces that already exist. So, for example, a T-shirt, we don't have to design a whole new T-shirt for everyone, because a T-shirt, is a T-shirt. So we have these basic pieces, which we will send a couple of samples to Europe, so that we can send it from there, and this really shortens the time. And then this other product is really them having their very unique ideas. And another benefit for them is that we can also produce smaller order sizes, because we have a quite flexible system. But unfortunately, we haven't yet found a way around that. We do a lot of we do send them a lot of pictures, so straight from the production actually. So, for example, a client now, we were producing things, and I gave these orders to some of the producers, and now they've sent me pictures. I'm sending these pictures to her, so we can already now do the process a little bit online, just because everyone has a smartphone, and we can do that. But we're going to formalize that process much more. Yeah, to really get to this final sample in the end, which we can then send. Yeah, but well, you always have to at least send one sample because it's a physical product, so people also want to hold it in their hand. But we can really do a lot with pictures already.
So on the blockchain side of things, what are you expecting to use Cardano, the blockchain, for? Like, I know you want to use it to show particular records and stuff. Are you planning to, mark an order and put metadata based on where it is? Like, how are you going to integrate it in, and what do you see Cardano and the blockchain playing their part in this whole process?
Yeah. So that side, we're really still in the beginning, should I say. For us, the transparency and also in terms of the payment is really important, because when it comes to fairness, it's always important to know how much are these people actually getting paid. Yeah, so that's really one thing that's important. Other than that, it's really the transparency that's extremely important to us. We're still working a lot on that. I'm unfortunately also not the expert in that sense. I'm more on the ground. I'm also learning every day what can actually be done and also what can't be done.
I know you're working with some other people. In fact, Chris from Mercer, who I interviewed in a previous podcast, put me in contact with you. So who's the team that you're working with? Obviously Chris, but who else, and what roles does everyone play?
Yeah, so we're currently 4 co-founders. I'm the CEO. I started with the idea. Then a very good friend of mine, which I know from university, she's really into this finance and legal stuff. So she's really working on getting the economics right, which is a huge task, and also the legal and the logistics. Because if you're sending things, you have to account for a lot of taxes and all of that stuff. But she's really also involved in so many things. It's really been like we're the core 2 people in a way. And then, a good friend and mentor of mine really pushed this idea of blockchain to us. And then we were like, all right, we need someone who actually knows a lot about it. I understand the concept quite well, but I'm not the one who's going to implement it. I think there's people who know that much better. So then we got Chris on board, which was a huge add also in terms of how we're actually going to build it from the ground up. I always knew there was supposed to be this tech part. It was also always supposed to be tech enabled, but Chris is really now bringing in this factor of how are we actually going to do it, and of course the blockchain part. And then we have Gregorine, who is really our CMO, so she can really talk to the clients. She does a lot of the marketing, and she's also really interested in the sustainability and the fairness of the project, and really also building a social business and not just a business.
Wow, you've managed to get into contact with some really good people and form a nice little team there. What's your project timeline like? Like how far are you from producing something that can be tracked and traced and be completely transparent on the blockchain, and be able to present that to clients and customers as well as the locals?
Yeah, I would say around probably a year. So as I said, we're really using this approach of starting on ground and figuring out what to build before we start building it, which we're doing right now. So I think, we're really trying to get the first orders and already produce stuff, which is maybe not on the blockchain yet, but we know how that process works. We're also at the same time trying to kind of mimic this decentralized network on WhatsApp. So, for example, most of these producers have WhatsApp, so we can already, use all of these roles and for example, build different groups and already get a couple of hundred producers on this mimic platform. And that we're going to do that probably until the end of the year. And my goal would be really to have the first working system on the blockchain in about a year, so middle of 2022.
It's amazing that people can run their entire businesses on WhatsApp. It's just one of those apps true. That I don't use. People here in Australia don't really use it that much. I guess we moved off it. But I guess for other countries that are, I guess, mobile based, they're using their mobile phones constantly. WhatsApp is a brilliant little tool.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really interesting, like this whole peer-to-peer thing really exists on WhatsApp. I mean, I think it's also been fueled by the pandemic, of course. But for example, I'm in a couple of groups with entrepreneurs and producers, and these groups have like 500 messages every day of people posting their products, people interacting, and that's really how it works. And what's really amazing, and which also for me shows this potential, is when I was in the beginning of the year, I was in Germany for a couple of months, but a friend of mine, it was his birthday, so I wanted to make him a gift. So I was like, now how am I going to, get a gift of something that I want? And there was this particular group, like a female entrepreneurship group, and a lot of sellers and producers were just on there. So I just posted a picture of something that I wanted in a way, which I just got off Google basically. And within like 2 minutes, like 5 people were texting me, okay, I have it. Where can I ship it?
Wow, that's amazing.
And like, that's really amazing. It is amazing. Like, there's just these people, and that's what we're trying to do. It's this hustle culture in a way of people having their business. They're waiting for something. They don't really have a big market, and the local market here in Uganda and Africa is quite small because the purchasing power is just not so much. So you really have this hustle culture, and people who want to act on it, and this swarm of small businesses who really want to serve you. So that was really amazing, and yeah.
It's brilliant to be able to tap into that and then actually be on the ground. I've never been to anywhere in Africa before, so it's one definite continent that I do want to get to as soon as this pandemic thing is over. Sooner or later. All right. This sounds like an absolutely brilliant project to follow along and get a little bit of update every once in a while. So I think I will check in on you and see how things are going and see how business is, and see what you're actually producing as well. I've seen a couple of shots on your website in some like top skirts and whatnot. Are there some of the designs that you came up with yourself?
Yeah, so these were really one of the very few first samples. I produced them, that was really last year, the end of last year, where I really tried to test this concept of can I produce something which is interesting maybe to the international market? So yeah, these are really, you know, I bought the materials and went to a couple of tailors and made these things, and they turned out really nicely, which I was really happy about, and we were really able to use these as our first samples of, okay, we can produce something, and that's also how we got our first clients. So it's the beauty about what I love about this project is that it's a huge idea and it's extremely complex. But if you really break it down to starting, you can really start very easily, which enables us to make these hands-on experiences very fast and understand our clients extremely fast. And yeah, I think when we build this blockchain model on top of it, I feel like then we can really crack the scale as well.
How can people follow the project? Where can we go to find out more? I'm assuming you're on social media all over the place, and your website as well. What are the references for everyone to tune in on?
Yeah, so first of all, the website, so wayacollective.com. We're on Instagram, so our name there is also Waya Collective. Yeah, and then also me personally, I post a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. I'm extremely active on LinkedIn, and also there the company page, where we're going to do much more there. Yeah, so these are really the main things to follow.
All right, brilliant. I did follow you on LinkedIn as well, and I saw you post about the extraordinarily high price of shampoo that you have to pay for locally there in Uganda. It's I guess if there's no demand, if there's supply chain issues.
True, and also this lack of local production. I mean, all of this stuff is imported because these local producers, they don't really have these standards to even get into the local supermarkets, which is extremely sad. And we really, I mean, we're really fighting against that and say, you know what, we're actually going to export this stuff to the international market. And it is actually possible to produce a great quality here. And I've seen people do like great quality, but it's really only very small, like a very small percentage of businesses who have great products. The rest is really just there trying to maybe do what everyone else does. And we're really trying to scale this high quality stuff to the rest of these producers.
I have no idea how you are going to train all of the the suppliers, the tailors, the logistics, the couriers, all those people to actually get the logistics done. But it's quite an effort on your behalf. You've got the really, really hard part of it. I think Chris has got the easy part, just building it.
Yeah, Chris always says that. He's always like, other, like a lot of blockchain projects, they're sitting at home and coding something. Like, that's not hard. This being on ground and like figuring like physical things out is so difficult. And I mean, I'm also learning it every day. Things barely go right. Yeah, but I mean, I see I just see all of the components here, and they're just not organized. And that, in my mind, really annoys me in a way, because, for example, there are many trainers, and there's so many training programs, especially maybe from international agencies, but they don't train for a real purpose. They train for their program, and then, you know, people learn skills that are never really needed or used anywhere. So like a friend of mine, she's doing a similar project, not tech enabled, but the on ground stuff with furniture, and she's producing beautiful furniture with carpenters, and like she's also working with these people who who train them, like these international organizations. But she says they're training them staff of like how maybe Europeans did furniture 300 years ago. Instead of just getting someone in who is like, this is the world standard, you can reach it. And people here also, they don't believe that it's possible to produce stuff here, which you can sell. I mean, I did this post. I was so amazed. Like I did this post on LinkedIn where I posted a shirt which I produced in Uganda with also cotton. So cotton and cotton material from Uganda. And I posted this, and I've had so many, like hundreds of people comment, and hundreds of Ugandans say like, I didn't think that this was ever possible.
Wow.
to have someone like you wear a t-shirt that's from Uganda. Like they were so amazed what is possible. And I was like, yeah, so the mindset also from the locals is really yeah, they don't believe, they don't really have the confidence. And I feel like it's possible to change that if they just see the potential, and if they also see how it's been done in a way. Yeah.
Mindset's huge. It's once you actually understand, I guess it comes up from a lot of education as well, and how people are brought up. But once that mindset is changed, it really unlocks a lot of potential in people.
Yeah, no, I was just telling a story where I talked to a friend, and they wanted to do like shawarma, and also did for the sake of like youth employment and training of people in the food industry, and they wanted to produce shawarma. And how like these people organized it was like, you know, they had like maybe one task of like doing the shawarma was on this side of the room, the other one on the other side, and they took so long to do this food, the simple food, basically assembling it. And then they were like, you know what, why don't we put it in a lane of making it fast, but still they're very, very slow to do it. And then he said the only way that these people started being fast at it is when he actually showed them a video of some guy in some another country who was, I think, doing like 20 shawarmas in 1 minute. And then they saw it, and they're like, it's actually possible to be fast. And then they immediately they were much faster, because they're like, okay, actually this is how you do it. Someone has done it. Yep.
So in their mind, it's actually possible. They believe it's like, oh well, if that person can do it, I can do it too. Wow. Okay. Wow. Yeah. Right. Antonia, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. It's been an absolute pleasure learning more about the project and more about yourself as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. For having me here, and for therefore also supporting our vision. It's really great.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast.
Make sure you check out Antonia on all of their social media profiles, follow the project, and find out exactly what's going on. It is a pretty cool little project, or not little, it's quite a large project to follow, and it'll be interesting to see how this comes about. It's got a really good team. I know Chris from Mercer is working on the technical side of things, so it will be definitely implemented well. Now, if you are interested in more of our content, you can check out our audio podcast. There is a link to it up there, but you can find it on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or anywhere that you listen to your favorite audio podcasts. Or if you want to support our content and our show, you can delegate to our stake pool, Ada Oz, where we will be using all the funds to produce more absolutely fantastic and wonderful content just for you. So make sure you check that out. You can find out more information at cadarnode.com.au. But like always, like I say, please give us that thumbs up, click subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and you hear more from me soon. Right.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast. Gotta get it hype. Crypto is what we like, but this is not investment or financial advice. Gotta do your research, cause it's risky. We know it is. This show is educational and it's informative. Crypto's the future, really, it ain't no debating.